I wanted to talk to you about the greeting, and agents fall down in the greeting very often. So when I call somebody, I like to call with, "Hi, Mary," and then they're like, "Yeah," and then you might be like, "Hey, this is just Griffin. I don't know if you remember talking to me before or getting a message from me by chance." And then they say, this totally interrupts the normal call that they get. So it works for me. I use it, and they're like, "No," or "Yeah, I do remember." And then they might even say, "Is this about life insurance?" Now, a totally different call that I've been doing is the inbound call. And so I like to kind of set the tone with, Mary, people, we really only call them for two reasons, even though they called me. And I say, the first is to see what plans and discounts are available for them. And then the second is we just see what their needs are. But I'm sure you and I could both agree that the one common need of everybody that I talk to is they just want to make sure that when the time comes, there's not going to be a financial burden on their family. Give a second to pause there, because they're going to probably say something, and then you're going to say, if they don't say anything, "Does that sound a little bit like your situation?" And they're probably going to say yes. I don't like to force people into yes answers all the time, because it either is or it is not their situation. Sometimes they'll say, no, it's not my situation. I just wanted to pay for my burial. I'm like, oh, okay. So, but if you didn't pay for the burial, who would that be? Well, that'd be my son. I'm like, okay, but so the burden would fall on them if you didn't pay for your burial. They'll say, yeah. So you kind of see how, like, some people feel more safe just giving you a no, which is fine with me, because if that makes them feel better, we're still getting to the same place at the end of the day, right? So again, inbound phone call, ring, ring. "Hi, this is Griffin with the Final Expense Department on a recorded line. Who'd I have the pleasure of speaking with?" "This is Mary. I was calling you about that $25,000 program on the TV commercial." "Absolutely, Mary. I'd be happy to get you the information on that." When we talk to people, they're just trying to see if they can, get the $25,000 program for, did it have a dollar amount, a daily dollar amount? And they're like, "Yeah, $2 a day." Now, I had a lady the other day say, that's a scam. Y'all are just getting people to call saying they can get $2 a day, but then when they call in, they don't get $2 a day. Well, I'll say, listen, I understand what you're saying. It kind of hits a broad, and I got to be slow when I don't want to talk too fast when I explain this to people. The $2 a day for 25,000 is true. It hits a broad audience, ma'am. So, like, if you're calling me at 84 or 86, like I just got off a phone call with an 86-year-old, it's going to be, more like $4 or $5 a day for that person, possibly, right? But for someone who's 50, they can actually get it for $60 or $63 a month, right? And then I'm like, you're 57, pretty decent health. You're pretty close to that. You're not that far off from being able to get it between $2 and $3 a day. And when I explained it to her, she wasn't upset. She's like, "Yeah, that makes sense." Like, I'm like, you probably know, ma'am, you're 56, you're older than I am. If you get life insurance at 30, it's going to be a better deal than when you're 40 or 50. She's like, "Yeah, I know." And I'm not trying to make them feel bad or wrong for waiting this late in life to get something like this done. They're on the phone with me for a reason. They have a problem they're trying to solve. I don't want them to feel bad about it. There's no need for that. I do want them to know, like, it is important. We got to get to the emotional core later in an appropriate way. It's like, hey, we've all made mistakes, but I don't even say that to them because I don't want them to make them feel like I'm saying they made a mistake. But, like, it's not about what we did in the past. I might say this. It's not about what we did in the past. It's about what we do about it going forward. I mean, there's a lot of things that are possible. I don't like to say things are impossible. But one thing I have not figured out how to do is change the past. And they're like, "Yeah, that makes sense to me." Or they're like, "Yeah, that's true." They'll agree with that, because I don't know anybody that can change the past except Doctor Strange from Marvel. All right. But the thing is that we can control our future. And that's how I bring people into the present on the conversation. Some people, they reminisce, they go back and they spend a lot of time in the past. So I'm like, all right, what can we do going forward talking about the future? Like, how can I help you? How can I be of service? A lot of times, help, you can tell where people are on that scale. Help is like you gotta be, do it in the right way. You gotta say it in the right way. Help is kind of associated with other negative things in people's lives. Someone tried to help them at one point, and that help was turned around on them, and it turned upside down, and they lost money or things didn't work out. And so they kind of have maybe some bad experiences with help, right? So I'm like, look, this is a point that you do need and you do want, right? And they say, yeah, okay. I'm just looking at it from a service perspective of what kind of service can we provide to you.